Hey guys, what's up? It's Samantha, and I am back with another memory keeping spread. We're finally into October 2020, and this week I am using a really old Scribble Prince Co. kit called Coffee Shop, and I actually chose not to really pull in any foil with this. I kept it pretty simple and white space just because there aren't as many labels and that kind of stuff in this kit just because it's an older format. I think I've had this for almost 3 years at this point. I have mentioned this before, but I have a ton of fall kits from SPC, fall and winter, that are 2-3 years old because I never memory kept the back half of 2019. So I'm basically at this point using all the kits that I had originally planned to use then, with a few exceptions, and there's some older stuff in here, so I do apologize if it's stuff that isn't available anymore or hasn't been for a long time, but I'm, using what I have. I'm not gonna just get rid of 20 kits, So I did pull in this really pretty Simply Gilded bow washi, and I did use a fall script box in SPC's Rose Gold, which is kind of a mauve-y pink that matches this kit pretty well, but other than that, I didn't use foil. I had some black date dots from SPC, and then I also have some black scripts from Randy Dot Plans that you'll see that I pull in at the end, because when I ordered the 3 foils I ordered in from her, she very kindly included a 4th of everything in just black. I'm guessing that's something to do with how she prints sheets out or something, but I was pleasantly surprised by having those extra just like solid black scripts in there. So I decided to pull them in for this spread here, and lots of white space. It's a very simple spread, but it works. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into all of the books that I read this week, because there are quite a few. So the first book I read was actually an advanced copy of a novella, and that was Burning Roses by S.L. Huang, and I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it so much I actually bought a finished copy of it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and this is a really cool mashup of both European fairy tales like Goldilocks and Little Red Riding Hood, and also Chinese folktale and folklore like Hoey the Archer. And it's queer. In some cases, it's kind of like gender bent. Like in this book, Hoey is a woman, and she is still married to Chang'e, and all of that kind of story is in there still, but it's mashed up with Little Red Riding Hood, and all these characters are interacting on page, and it's super diverse. Little Red Riding Hood is cued as Latina in this book, and basically Little Red Riding Hood, Rosa, and Hoey have to go kill a bunch of sunbirds that are ravaging the countryside, and it's their quest together, and it's just really cool. I loved seeing a different kind of fairy tale mashup that included Chinese like folktale. I really appreciated what this book did. It's very short. I think I read it in an hour and a half. So if that's something that even remotely sounds interesting to you, I would highly recommend that you pick it up. It was a good time, and you're not gonna, be losing out on hours of your life if you want to pick this up. Then the next book I listened to was also a novella, and it was the original by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal, and I would recommend this to people who liked Scythe and want something that explores similar themes to that in an adult book. This is very fast-paced, very action-packed because it's a novella, so there's a lot in a very small amount of time, but it has excellent world building, especially considering how short it is. This takes place in a future world where, kind of similarly to Scythe, basically all of humanity's ills have been smoothed over, and people are able to go to these like rejuvenation centers to like become healthy, like you don't age, all that stuff, is gone. But there's also, because of all of this technology, you've lost a lot of your privacy. So it explores a lot of those topics, things that we, maybe are contemplating now about what kind of privacy is it worth giving up for the convenience of modern technology, I say as I'm looking at my Echo, sitting on my counter here. So it follows a woman who wakes up in the hospital and is told that she is not herself. She is a replica of herself, and she has been created as a provisional replica to go hunt down her original body because she killed her husband. And of course, she doesn't know why she killed her husband because she only has the memories of herself up till the last rejuvenation center check-in that her old body had done. So it's kind of this futuristic cop movie almost, where she's hunting down a murderer, but the murderer is her, and it's very, very cool. The world building was super, unique and well done for such a short amount of book. I really enjoyed this. The audio quality, the audio production, was top notch. I don't know if this is available as an ebook or a physical book yet. I believe when it was released, it was just audio, and I'm not sure if there has been an ebook release yet. I did not check into that, so I apologize. But I give that a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really good time. Then the next book I read, I really don't have much to say about, and it was The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra, Clare, and Wesley Chu. I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. I really don't like the original characters from the Mortal Instruments series, except for Magnus, and Alec can be okay. He's grown on me. I actually liked the first book in the series quite a bit more because it was just focused on Magnus and Alec, but this one basically had the whole original gang back together, and I pretty much hate all of those other characters except for Simon, so I just wanted to murder Clary and Jace the entire time. I don't know, I just am sick of Clary and Jace a lot. I just don't like them very much. So I was bummed that they kind of took over this book where I would have rather had Alec and Magnus be the focus, because that was what they were supposed to be. That's the premise of the series, is that it's Alec and Magnus's series. But somehow Clary and Jace are still the center of attention. So yeah, I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. If you like the series, this is worth, picking up. They're pretty short and easy to get through. But, if you just want to read, the Clockwork Angel, Infernal Devices, that's what it's called, or, the Lady Midnight series, because I can't ever remember what anything's called in this world, Dark Artifices, that's what that one's called. But, if you're just oh, I'll read one here, one there, but you don't read the short story collections and all that, there's no need to pick this up. I'm just a weirdo that reads everything, because, I don't know, they're my fluff, cotton candy palette cleansers in between things. Then the next book is a short story collection that I read as an advanced copy, and that's The Midnight Circus by Jane Yolen, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Obviously, with a short story collection, there's going to be stories that you like more or less, but on the whole, I really enjoyed pretty much all of these stories. It is a collection of her darker or scarier short stories from throughout her career. So most of these have been published in other places, but there are a couple original titles. And I would say my favorite one out of this is probably Wilding, which is a really cool short story that imagines a futuristic New York City where Central Park is walled off and teenagers or, young people kind of go there to release their animalistic tendencies. And it was really interesting and creepy and a little scary. But I enjoyed that quite a bit. Some of these are more atmospheric and other ones are more just, dark, scary, spooky stuff. But it's a perfect read to pick up on, a foggy, rainy autumn evening. It was very atmospheric and dark. So it was a good October read. Then the next book I picked up was Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire, which I absolutely adored. If somehow you don't know what this book series is about, because I feel like I'm very late to this party, it basically follows a a school for children who have gone through Narnia-esque doors and then unintentionally come back to our world, and they are trying to find their doors again, or they're dealing with trauma because they aren't allowed to go back to those worlds, and they are all feeling very misunderstood and like they don't have, like they've lost this huge part of them. And it is just very whimsical and magical. There are some darker elements that are explored in different books. And, there is like a murder in this first one, but somehow they're just very wholesome still, even when the books are bloodier or darker, because those, like the characters that those different books are about want that. Like that is part of who they are. And so it's like, oh yay, like they found a place for themselves where they can be like bloody and weird and murdery, like yay, which sounds really weird, but it's very, like, I don't know, these are just such magical books. And if you've ever felt like you didn't belong, like this is the book for you. This was a 5-star read for me. It just felt like my heart book, if that even makes sense. I don't know. I adored everything about this. And then the last book that I read was Lobizona by Romina Garber. And I have pretty mixed feelings about this book. I would definitely read another Romina Garber book, but I'm not going to be continuing on with this series. This is a book that centers around Argentinian folklore, particularly werewolves, and I really liked the beginning of this so much. We basically follow Manu, who is an illegal immigrant living in Miami with her mother, and the beginning of this book is so strong that like Manu basically can't leave the apartment that she lives in, or can very rarely leave the apartment, and there's a very complicated mother-daughter relationship. And there is this really deep exploration of culture and the concept of like, quote unquote, being illegal. And I loved what she did. And this world that she created just within this apartment, within this like Miami, like living in Miami as an illegal immigrant. And she just does a really good job of kind of submerging you into this, like the fear, just the abject fear that Manu has of being discovered, or her mother being deported. And I really, really enjoyed that part of this book. I thought at the beginning, I thought this was going to be a 4 or 5 star read for me. And then once she's kind of whisked away to this magic school setting, I feel like the book kind of lost its like direction. I felt like I was being hit by a hose of information, so I never had to be curious about anything, and nothing was kind of discovered naturally. Things were just like thrown at you constantly, and there's a lot of references to this being similar to a certain boy wizard, which is fine. Like the main character is a bookworm, and she really enjoys that series, and she, if once or twice she's relating her experience to boy wizard, then that's fine. But there's nonstop like, oh, this professor is very much like this character, and this feels just like another magic school, and the constant references were a little bit too on the nose, and just let it be its own thing. I don't know, it gets like weird and angsty and teenagery, and I just did not enjoy the magic part of this. Once we kind of got to this separate magic school, it was like weird. I don't know, it just wasn't really my jam. So I would definitely read another book by her, especially if she wrote something that was more like contemporary, or an urban fantasy that stayed more urban and not like, okay, we're going to a magic school now, bye. Because I found the part of this book that took place in Miami to be much more interesting than the parts that didn't. So I was really bummed out. This has a gorgeous cover, and for like the first third of this book, I was like, okay, I'm totally going to buy this book. Like this is a gorgeous cover, a gorgeous book. Like I'm going to love this. I'm definitely going to, and then as it got on, I'm like, nope, not for me. Like, so I like I said, I will totally be picking up whatever she writes after this series because I think she is a really excellent writer, and the themes she communicated, especially in the first, like, third half of the book, were just really, really top-notch, really well done. So if it's something that still sounds interesting to you, pick it up. Like, it's not a terrible book. It just, the magic elements of it didn't work for me, but that doesn't mean that they might not work for you. I definitely think this, especially the first half, was such a strong book. So that was everything that I read this week. Quite a lot. There's going to be, even more, about 7 books a week for the next couple weeks because I read 31 books in October. So, buckle up for that. But thank you guys so much for watching. All of the shops that I routinely use are linked in the description down below, along with my Goodreads and my Instagram. If you want to keep up with what I'm reading and, talk about books there, see my posts in my other planner on Instagram. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you in my next one. Bye, guys.